At my daughter's wedding, her groom raised his glass, pointed right at me, and mocked my empty life, making the guests burst into laughter. My daughter shyly bowed her head, but then her father-in-law came over to her, his eyes bulging wide, and he asked me for my autograph. He knew exactly who I truly was. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and drop in the comments what time it is, where you are right now. Ethan's voice sliced through my living room like shattered glass. Uncle Vaughn, we get that things aren't exactly booming for you money-wise, but this wedding means the world to Emily. I sat in my old leather armchair, checkbook already open across my lap, pen shaking just a bit in my fingers. 25 years in this chair. 25 years of warm talks with my daughter. Now she stood by the window, her fancy heels tapping on my scuffed hardwood floors as she shifted uneasily from one foot to the other. I want to help. My voice came out firmer than I felt inside. That's why you're here, isn't it? Ethan paced behind my coffee table, his pricey watch flashing in the afternoon sun. Every few moments, his gaze swept over my simple furniture. The worn-out couch Olivia and I had snagged secondhand, the dinged-up coffee table where Emily had scribbled as a kid. His face said it all. The venue by itself runs $60,000, he went on, glancing at that watch once more. And Dad's already handling the food, the music, the blooms. How much can you pitch in? I cut in, already bracing for the sting of the answer. Emily finally turned from the window. For a second, I glimpsed my little girl in her expression, the one who used to snuggle into this chair with storybooks. Then her face toughened up again. 25,000 would be ideal, she murmured softly. The figure struck me like a punch to the gut. I flipped open my checkbook, my wrinkled hands suddenly feeling every bit of my 68 years. The balance glared back at me. 28,300 and change. My whole savings, scraped together dime by dime since Olivia passed. 25,000, I said, ripping out the check with steady care. That's every last bit I own, every cent I've tucked away. Silence yawned between us like a vast gorge. Ethan halted his pacing, his mouth dropping open a touch. Then he chuckled. Not mean-spirited, just flat-out startled. For real, my dad drops more than that on blooms alone. Warmth flooded my neck. It's all I can manage. Vaughn! Uncle Vaughn! Ethan reined himself in, his tone turning to what might pass for sympathy. I truly value the effort. But this is a proper wedding we're planning. Emily deserves more than that. His wave took in my whole existence. The family pictures on the shelf, the pile of statements on my desk, the coffee cooling on the side table, all I'd toiled for, all I'd stashed, brushed off with one flick of his wrist. Dad! Emily's voice snapped like a lash. But she wasn't standing up for me. She was just cautioning him to watch his tongue. Listen. Ethan pressed on, his voice gentler now, more cutting. We both know you're scraping by on benefits and that slim retirement from your music stint. This isn't pity. This is about what Emily requires for her life ahead. I extended the check regardless, my ink still damp on the line. $25,000, 5 months of my earnings, the cash I'd hoarded for crises, for patching this creaky house, for the doctor tabs that loomed sure as sunrise. Ethan didn't grab it. Hold on to it, he said kindly. Perhaps patch that drip in your attic. The phrase lingered like haze. I hadn't breathed a word of the drip to a soul. He'd spotted it on his own. The faint damp patch on my ceiling, hidden unless you searched it out. He'd tallied my shortcomings, my lacks, in the 20 minutes he'd spent inside. Emily edged toward the door, her heels clicking sharp on my floor. We ought to head out. Emily. I rose. The check thrust forward still. Sweetie. Wait. She paused, fingers on the knob. For an instant, I hoped she'd whirl back. Recall who I was, what we'd shared once. We'll sort another way, she said. Back turned. Don't fret over it. The front door swung wide, letting in the rush of cars from the road. Ethan trailed her, stopping just to shoot me a look that bordered on regret. Thanks anyhow. Uncle Vaughn. Then they vanished, leaving echoes of doors thudding and an engine humming to life. I stayed rooted in my bare living room, gripping a check for $25,000 that no one claimed. The quiet squeezed my ears like deep water. I laid the check on the coffee table, watching it drift lightly in the draft from the vent. 25,000. Turned to scrap paper by a handful of offhand remarks. Outside, Ethan's sleek Audi vanished at the bend, whisking my daughter away. I dropped back into my chair, the leather groaning under me. The house seemed altered now, tighter somehow, as if the walls had crept closer in their stay. Every known thing seemed to taunt me. The family shots grinning from the shelf, the guitar case thick with dust in the corner, the stack of bills that barely budged. My phone vibrated on the side table. The noise pierced the hush like a blade, startling me upright. I groped for my specs, peering at the glaring screen. A message from Emily. Skip our wedding. We don't want your handout. I scanned it twice, then thrice, the letters refusing to shift. My thumbs flew over the keys, aiming to ring her, but it dumped straight to voicemail. Her taped voice, bright and crisp, urged a note after the tone. Words failed me. The phone tumbled from my grasp, rattling beside the check on the table. My ribs clamped tight, each inhale a deliberate pull. This went beyond cash now. This meant shedding the sole kin I had. I snatched the phone once more, pecking out a reply. Emily. Darling. I adore you. Please rethink. Erased. I only aim to aid. Sorry if... Erased. Can we chat, I beg? Erased. No phrase fit. None seized the void gnawing my core. The shock that my girl, my baby, could sever me so clean. The words rang like her, but keener, harsher than her teen storms. Ethan's sway. Perhaps. Or this was her now, and I'd stayed too dim to spot it. Afternoon rays slanted through the panes, stretching shadows over the planks. Far off, a mower buzzed, everyday suburb hum that rang worlds away. I clutched the phone, fixated on that message, craving sense to return, but none came. The check sprawled ignored on the table, my scrawl already blurring in the glow. All that cash, those careful months, pointless now, not for falling short, but for them spurning it outright, for spurning me. The house sighed into dusk around me. I ought to rise, fix a meal, chase something useful through my Saturday tale. Instead, I froze in the chair, phone heavy as lead, rereading the same raw dispatch till the sense drained away. Don't skip our wedding, my girl's wedding, the day I'd counted on for months, doubts about Ethan aside, the day I'd pictured strolling her down the path, toasting how Olivia would beam, twirling her as we did when she towed my boots as a tot. Vanished, all erased in 15 stark words on glass. I set the phone aside and shuffled to the shelf, knees wobbling under me. The family frames waited like steadfast pals, faces locked in brighter eras. My touch skimmed the biggest one's rim, Emily at 4, Olivia cradling her on her knee. Me faint in back with my vintage acoustic. We seemed whole then. Then the flash struck unbidden, teaching 5-year-old Emily to wheel her bike in our prior garage. Olivia whooping from the stoop, palms megaphoned. "You've nailed it. Little one, you've nailed it." And Emily's victory yelp as she finally coasted solo, teetering yet fierce, her trainers whirling pointlessly above. I lifted another shot. Shore getaway. 2002. Us three piling a grand sand fortress. Palms gritty with brine. Olivia in her go-to teal swimsuit, the one that lit her gaze like sea glass. Emily, near 9. Grit in her curls and the widest beam I'd witnessed. The kitchen tugged at me, habit steering my steps. I filled the pot with quivering hands, the plain chore anchoring me now. But here, amid routine gear, the echoes trailed. Olivia plaiting Emily's locks for school, dawn 1. Her digits swift and true. Stay put. Love, we crave you flawless. And me at the burner, flipping flapjacks into whims, mouse snouts, crooked stars, all to coax a grin from our jittery 7-year-old. The pot shrieked. I steeped a bag, eyeing the brew blacken, drawing in the known chamomile whiff. Olivia's pick. She'd brew a full urn each eve, nestling on the sofa tween Emily and me for flick nights. Corn in a vast clay tub, throws knotted at our toes. Us three bickering picks. She carries your bull-headed spark. Vaughn. Olivia would hush, in Emily's rough patches, as a teen, when she'd bolt upstairs over slights sensed. But even then, in the foulest rows, Emily would slink back down, tuck by Olivia on the cushions, yield to pardon. I bore my mug to the shelf, probing each print like clues to a theft. Proof we'd joyed once, proof of Emily at 18, mortarboard askew, clasping both folks with true warmth. I cherish you both. She'd vowed that day. I cherish you heaps. When did that flip? When did I turn to one whose care rud as aid, whose company grated post Olivia's end likely, the burial, the grim stretch after? Emily withdrawing from me like grief tainted me. She'd hit 28 then, grown for sorrow, yet perhaps too fresh to absolve me for failing to plug her mother's void. I fell short. Sans Olivia as hub, as bond. Emily and I had floated apart like wreck bits post-gale. Bits of one clan, adrift separate ways. I grasped the freshest frame. Us three at Olivia's final birth feast, 3 months pre the verdict. We'd hit her top diner, split a red blend, guffawed till guts hurt. In the snap, Olivia's crown on my arm while Emily stretched over the board, grasping her mum's palm. We gleamed untouchable then. We gleamed as if naught could crack us. The shelf timer told 4. Had I lingered here past 50 minutes, my brew chilled in my grip. The outer light veered to gloam, and I clutched this frame still, chasing grasp on the wrong turn. 3 grins beamed from the glass, a clan full, blind to the hurt lurking near. Olivia's chuckle ghosted from the pain. Emily's kid trill hollering, "Daddy from some far sunny noon." But the house hush ruled total now, pierced soul by clock ticks and timber groans. The check lingered forsaken on the table. The phone spared mercy and quiet, and I loomed amid shades of sweeter spells, clasping marks of our past self, pondering if I'd ever spy my girl beam at me so anew. The glad clan snap slid from my hold, swapped by a frame 2 years on. Olivia looked gaunt here, bones stark under sheer hide, her grin bold yet weary. The clinic band on her arm snared the beam. I recalled the sharp, clean tang that stuck to all in those moons, the bound halls with their glare bulbs, the drone of gear pulsing my dread. Olivia's palm in mine, chill and frail as the doc uttered terms like boulders in my throat. Stage 4, he'd noted, tweaking his frames. We nabbed it soon for care, but it's fierce. Olivia clamped my digits till I winced. Emily perched by us. 31, yet child lost, her mug ashen with jolt. She stayed mum through the whole check, just glared at the scans on the glow panel as if to force shifts. The chemo rounds smeared to 1, hauling Olivia to clinic each Monday and Friday, viewing her tresses shed in tufts, feigning blindness when she retched in the lot post. She donned wraps and caps, held jaw firm, jested with the aides, but homebound, when she deemed none watched. I'd catch her eyeing her reflection with a look I'd never clocked. Emily dropped by rarer as weeks dragged. Job crammed, she claimed. Roads jammed bad. Life pressed on, but I spied the true cause in her stare at her mum. Dread. Sheer raw fright at beholding the prime soul in her realm fade chunk by chunk. She's too fresh for this, Olivia breathed to me one dusk as we eyed Emily bolt after a 10-minute stay. I deserved more span with her. The last weeks ranked foulest. Care gear jammed our sleep space. Air cans, pill rosters, a clinic slab that gulped Olivia down. Emily showed daily then, but clung to the scullery mostly, scrubbing platters pristine, sorting shelves needless. Why couldn't you spare her? Emily's murmur scarce over the shuffle of grievers past Olivia's box. Not blame, just cracked. A query from a girl who'd trusted Dad fixed all. I aimed to clasp her at the right, but she shrank from my hold, coiling arms round self instead. She sported Olivia's ebony frock, the pair's final dameling meal garb, and mirrored her mum so keen. It wrenched my breast. The post-right days dragged eternal. I'd find Emily in Olivia's seat, fingering her mum's specs or prime mug, but she'd brace when I stepped in, as if I sparked recall of all we'd forfeited, all I'd botched guarding. She'll crave you fiercer, Olivia urged in one late clear spell. Bar her shoving you off. Vaughn, she'll try, but bar her. But I let her. Each pullback from Emily, each dodge to skip, each gaze past me, not at. I released her. I convinced self she craved room to mourn, that pressing would shove her farther. Now, clasping this snap of Olivia's ultimate Yule with us, I faced the dodge I'd shunned. Emily hadn't lone lost her mum that span. She'd lost trust in me too. Lost the creed I'd shield our beloveds, that I held grit to knit our kin sans Olivia's core. The snap quaked in my palms. Olivia's gaze pierced back, vivid with faith despite the scourge gnawing her frame. She'd banked on me minding our girl, and I'd botched her. Botched them both. I shelved Olivia's snap and trudged to the scullery. Wrote pulling me through the known right. Brew. Olivia's aged clay cups, the ones nicked faint at lips we'd skipped mending. The right rang vacant now, like staging for void seats. Vapor curled from the new urn as I poured, the bold scent swelling the void. But over ease, the tang yanked back another recall. Ethan's debut in our pad. Emily had fidgeted that day, fluffing cushions unneeded, peeking the lavatory glass thrice. I'd whipped my famed ziti, the brew Olivia honed o'er 35 years of Lord's suppers. So this is Emily's grow-up spot. Ethan's tone held a shade I couldn't pin at first. Snug. The term dangled like sig-wisp. Not tight. Snug. Not humble. Snug. My whole lot shrunk to one condensing beat. He'd roamed our front room with tour guide care, his gaze logging each frayed bit, each dulled clan snap. each plain mark of what Olivia and I forged o'er 3.5 decades. We best dine out. He'd floated when I bid him linger for eats. There's a swell joint uptown. You'd dig it. Mr. Cartwright. Emily chimed yes at once. Sounds grand. Dad, let's test fresh fare. Fresh fare. As if 35 years of Lord Ziti were shame stuff. Outgrown dross. I watched him exit from my scullery pane, Ethan's palm on Emily's back, steering her to his glossy Audi. Through the pane, I caught him murmuring of the block, of land worth, of zones with sharper promise. The follows shrank shorter, scarcer. When they showed, Ethan lobbed off the cuff notes that nipped like slivers. We, exact gashes that wept not, but lingered sore. My dad holds a man's gauge lies in his yield. He'd tossed one eve, eyeing our plain front room. Triumph trails hints. See. Emily took to scanning our home a new post that I'd catch her marking stuff she'd glossed ere, the damp blot on the ceiling, the fray rims in the rug, the sink tap's endless plink no twist quelled. Don't you crave sharper than this? I'd eavesdropped Ethan probe her one noon as they stood in our lane. Sharper than this, sharper than the hearth where she'd toddled, where Olivia spun her night tales, where we'd hailed each birth and feast for 35 years. Perhaps Dad should mull shrinking down. Emily opined in one drop by. This spot's waxing too vast for him solo. She'd eyed Ethan in saying it. Fishing nod. The girl who'd once shielded me from yard toughs now pitched. I ditched the nest Olivia and I picked joint, the nook where each chamber brimmed with our kin lore. I should have pushed back then. Should have jogged Emily's mind of Lord's dawns when she'd wedged tween Olivia and me in sheets. Of the plot where her mum taught bloom tags. Of the scullery where we'd shaped cakes like moths each birth morn. Instead, I'd beamed civil and proffered brew in Olivia's nicked cups. My brew chilled in hand while I drowned in these recalls. Out the scullery pane, my neighbor trimmed his plot, the firm buzz that hailed from alien realms, a plain Saturday noon in a plain suburb tract, while my days crumbled one civil chat at a clip. Ethan claimed sans fanfare. He'd mere shown Emily an alt-take on Triumph, one where care gauged in bucks and worth by yard span. And I'd stayed too woe-worn, too courtly, too scared of shedding my scant hold on my girl to battle for her regard. 7 days slugged since that stark dispatch, each melting to next like dyes in downpour. Sunday morn fetched my prime bid to ring Emily, but her line plunged to voicemail, that perky crisp tape that stung like fresh cuff. Hey, love, Dad here. Just hoped to. The chime clipped me ere end. I glared at my phone, musing if half a minute sufficed to spill all I craved, or if half a life fell short. Monday and Tuesday mirrored. One ring daily, to voicemail, notes waxing frantic. Emily, ring back please. I adore you. Love, we gotta hash this. By Thursday. I quit ringing full, instead. I plunged into scrubbing nooks I'd dodged since Olivia's fade. Wardrobes stuffed with her gear I couldn't face sorting. Her scent clung to gowns I'd lacked gut to gift off. Her specs perched on our bunk stand, awaiting her. Friday hauled penned dispatches I keyed and axed. A missive I scratched by hand but couldn't post. My script looked wobbly, aged. Not like the bold hand that once signed nods for fans harking my band's flash fame. Saturday forenoon caught me in Olivia's plot. Yanking burrs round her lily beds, my paws worked on cue, wrote from her crisp guides of summers gone. Not too near the base, Vaughn. Let 'em draw air. The soil ground kind under my nails, true toil needing naught but heed and nurture. The midday beam warmed my back when my phone thrummed at my thigh. likely another pitchman, or the drugstore nudge for my heart pills. I near skipped it, but some spark bid check. Perchance wish, perchance wrote, perchance the frantic scrap in me still crediting wonders. Dad, can we link and hash sorry for all? I parsed the note thrice ere it sank, fourfold ere faith hit. My thumbs quaked typing back, axing and rekeying till it rang right. Sure thing, love, when, where her ping flew swift, Harbor Cafe on Elm Street, Sunday at 3, I'll show. I set the phone down soft, as if rash moves might crack this slim shot. Then I paced in and faced the lavatory glass, probing the mug gazing back. Silver scruff, etched furrows by eyes, the slimming that bagged my tops at shoulders. Would she mark how I'd grade in 7 days' shave? Suit up. Feign the dad she recalled over the cracked man I'd shaped. The inked note crackled in my top pouch when I brushed it. Mark, this wasn't dream, not wistful haze from lone pining and rue. Sunday at 3, I'd clasp my girl anew. Sunday, perchance we'd quest back to one another. 10 minutes ahead, per habit. I claimed a nook bench in the Dawn Cafe, clocking my ticker for 5th go in 3 ticks. The spot thrummed with Sunday vigor. Young strivers on portables, kin with prams, the sort where one Joe tops my old weekly chow bill. My paws smoothed my top rim, the self-same slate Oxford from Olivia's right, laundered, steamed, but frayed faint atoms. When Emily swept through the panes bang on 3, my breast knotted with ease. She shone, lavish too. Her chic satchel loan outpriced my monthly aid check, but her gaze bore the doubt of a kid who'd cracked a treasure and fretted grace. Dad, her tone hitched faint. Thanks for showing. Love. I lurched up swift, nigh toppling my Joe. Course I came. We clasped clumsy o'er the wee board, her scent novel and sleek, seated. Quiet gaped 'tween us like a rift none knew to bridge. Your Joe's cooling, she noted, nodding my untouched mug. I was edgy. I owned, feared spilling on your entrance. That drew a wee beam, the prime real one in moons. Dad, I'm gutted over it all. How I handled you. That vile dispatch. Emily, love. Counts we're hashing now. Nay, let me rap. She bent close, paws knotted firm round her brew. I was vicious, beyond pardon. And Ethan's barbs on your pad. Your lot. He nailed it. Though I can't yield what you merit. Halt, her tone firmed, echoing Olivia's set jaw call. You handed me all that tallied care, stead, a youth brimmed with treasures I hoard. Ethan sees that fresh. He aches o'er his words, craves to atone direct. I dipped head, though a twist knotted my gut. Folks like Ethan didn't swift sprout qualms, but perchance I judged harsh. Perchance the strain of right plots sparked slips unmeant. I still crave yielding the 25,000, I said, fishing my coat for the folded check. It's my all, but yours. Dad, nay. Emily stretched o'er, blanking my paw with hers. Harold's blanked it all. The hall, the spread, the blooms, whole. We lack your cash. We lack your cash. The beat landed fiercer than meant. Not we prize the bid, or your lavish, but we lack, as my stake rang null not scant. I crave you there. She rolled on, blind to the gash she'd ripped. I need my dad at my right. Will you pace me to the arch? My gorge swelled with stir. Naught would swell me prouder. The right's next Sunday. 4 at Seaside Manor in Newport Beach. It'll gleam. Seaside Manor. Nigh 250 souls. 250 souls. I tried picturing amid that throng, gripping palms with Harold's flush pals, chit-chat on steaks and getaways and the fills of their days, but alien to mine. I'll show. I vowed. We hashed another hour, cautious words skirting deep rifts. Emily spilled right bits, the hauled blooms, the live strings, the supper slate like verse. I heeded, nodded, chased her thrill, even as each plush note marked how out this realm I stood. When we rose to part, she clasped true this round, clinging long for me to scent her posh rinse and feel her new leanness. I adore you, Dad. She breathed at my arm. I adore you too, love, beyond measure. Out the cafe. Her Audi gleamed in noon blaze. I paced her to the wheel side, noting the hide seats, the spotless gut, the dash like a craft or my aged Civic. Catch you next Sunday, she said, easing in. I watched her glide off, her ride lost in flow like a trim minnow to deeps. Then I stood sole on the walk, ringed by wealth whirs and winds, feeling glad and flat null both. The haul home from uptown chewed 50 minutes in Sunday jam, granting excess span to rerun each word swapped. Emily's atone rang true, her care firm, but beneath, I sensed the frame of her fresh days, days where my 25,000 rang unneedful, where Harold's open hand dwarfed my yields, my pad loomed tinier pulling in the drive, threadbare even, flakes shedding round pane rims, turf craving trim, the sort of plain mid-kin den that Ethan sorts likely skimmed sans note. In. I unfurled the right nod o'er my scullery board, probing the fine hand, the thick leaf that outran my old weekly market tab per leaf. Seaside Manor. I'd scoured it net. Shut club, shorefront perch. The vein where lot-minders snag more in nods than my aid haul yearly. Despite Emily's nay, I drew my check slate and penned deliberate 25,000. My full coin worth inked to digits on leaf. I'd pin a tag, plain on care-topping coin, on craving steak in her joy. 3 tags to bin ere wording clicked. Over mush in prime, stiff in next. The third hit fair for my radiant girl on her right dawn. Fondly. Dad. My prime garb dangled in the bunk closet, sheathed in plastic steam wrap that rustled at touch, charcoal with slim bars, nabbed for Olivia's right and donned scarce twice since. The weave ranked fine lamb's wool, but the cut yelled mid-2000s. Broad fronts, boxish drape, the vein that had tagged me sharp as one skimping on mode shifts. I held it to the bunk glass, chasing how Emily's plush kin would clock me. The garb cleaned, steamed, grave in its mode, but by Ethan's tailor kit, by whatever Harold sported, I'd beam just what I was, a chap maxing scant means. The boon sheath craved keen way too, lax and it'd slight the hour, plush and it'd smack overreach. I lit on ivory stock from the lot Olivia gifted years back, slipping check and tag in with fussy heed of one who knew show tallied when scant else availed. Dusk fogged my pad like mist off brine. I fixed plain chow, broth and crisp, and perched at scullery board gazing Olivia's plot. She would have clocked what to don for a right at Seaside Manor, would have steered me through rank webs of coin and rank. Sans her. I felt a player blank on cues. The bunk timer glowed 9:51 when I doused lamps. 1 week to the right. 1 week to steal for a realm where my girl fit. But I lingered eternal outcast. I sprawled wake long, heeding my aged den ease round me. Someplace in Newport Beach, 250 would flock next Sunday to hail Emily's fresh start. I'd stand midst 'em, in dated garb clutching scant boon, beaming for my girl, but keen to all I couldn't yield. The right nod lay on my bunk stand. ivory and gilt fine 'gainst scuffed timber. Tomorrow I'd steam my top, buff my lone gala kicks, drill chit for chats I'd ne'er true fit. But this night I mere held the sheath with my 25,000 boon, and mused if care could e'er suffice when the globe gauged worth in coin I'd ne'er clutch. My civic gleamed rust-hued bug midst gleaming plush rides in the seaside manor lot. Lexus, Audi, Tesla, wheels outrunning my peak band halls. The youth lot minder who snagged my keys held face bland, but I caught his brow twitch at my ride's bashed flank. "Welcome to Seaside Manor, sir." He piped civil, passing a tabbed chit. The club maw ranked all stone and prism, pane to sill framing a wild Pacific sweep. Souls streamed the gap in tailor-right garb, their prattle a chord of bold and offhand coin. I gripped my boon sheath, sudden sharp how my charcoal garb jarred, ill way, midst the flawless clad mass. "Pardon, are you for the Cartwright fate or the Kensington fate, alas with slate and earpiece neared with pro-zip?" "Cartwright, I'm Vaughn Cartwright, Emily's dad." Her mug eased faint, a glint of clock chased by what skimmed regret. "Sure, this way. Mr. Cartwright, you're at board 14. Board 14 hugged the rear of the greet zone. Nigh scullery flaps. Not prime spot for bride's sire. But then Harold banked this grand show. I ranked more soul than kin here. And what trade you in?" The gent by me stretched a groomed palm. His ticker loan outpaced my year haul. I'm eased off. I said, "Fact true." "Oh, swell." Eased from what the yarn wilted when I spilled my slim pension and aid. He wheeled to hash land stakes with the dame other side, leaving me to eye the grand whirl round. Aids in ebon kit glid tween boards bearing fizz bows and fussy bites. A cord set hummed soft by shore panes. Bloom stacks likely costing thousands forged scented forms through the gap. I tallied spends on cue. Knack honed in Olivia's six-span when each buck bit. The blooms lone marked moons of my haul. The fizz poured free outpriced my old weekly feed per flask. "Daddy." Emily bloomed by my board, aglow in her drift ivory robe. For a tick, she was mere my wee one anew, the tot who'd toe dance in our front room while Olivia chimed keys. "You gleam lovely." "Love," I choked, rising to clasp wary, minding her fussy robe and pro-paint. "I'm thrilled you're here," she breathed, but her gaze already scoured the throng, chasing scores of bits craving her heed as bride. Where to stash this, I held my boon sheath. Sudden keen its plain midst the tower of pro-wrapped boons by the maw. "Just tuck with the rest," she said scattered, already drifting to next knot craving nod. I trekked to the boon board, my ivory sheath like kids scrawl by the pro-wraps and fine bows round. 25,000, my full coin worth, shrunk to meekest yield in a tide of lavish boons. "Ladies and gents, seats for the right, please." The mass flowed to the outyard, where seats ranked neat rows facing brine. I nabbed my slated perch in fourth row rear, far from kin zone, where Ethan's line sat in plush weaves and bold stances. Brine gust bore tang of brine and lilac as souls eased to spots. Someplace in this proscripted show, my girl would wed to a realm where my care tallied, but my frame mere endured. The chord set eased to right chords, and I clutched the bill in pause, eyeing as Harold Kensington's globe readied to fold my girl in firm. Prism chimed prism as the greet kicked true. I found self at board 14 with far kin I scarce clocked. Third kin and old pals who beamed civil ere wheeling to juicier yarns on Tuscan pads and steak lots. The feed ranked grand, each round plusher than aught I'd tasted in years. Crab cream, beef tip with morel gravy, reds outrunning my month chow per flask. I dined wary, keen each shift, each tine ping on fine dish. Guffaws rippled the gap as yarns spilled and nods prepped. From prime board, I spied Emily alight with joy, Ethan by her, beaming Groom prime. Harold held sway at heart, spinning yarns that drew fond chortles. When Ethan rose, pinging his prism with silver blade, the gap hushed keen. He gleamed bold, at ease, bred for this core spotlight in a chamber of weighty souls. Thanks all for joining this prime day. He launched, his chime carrying neat o'er the span. Emily and I prize kin and pals who've backed our trail joint. Fond hums wafted o'er boards. I stirred uneasy, sensing a shade in Ethan's chime that knotted my gut. Kin tops all, Ethan rolled, his gaze roving the gap. And on kin, I aim to nod one prime soul here tonight. Emily's sire, Vaughn Cartwright. Every dome in the gap wheeled to me. I felt flush climb my neck as 250 gazes locked on my board, on my dated garb, on the sheath with my scant boon. Vaughn stands for aught we scarce spy now, a chap versed in fitting his lot. Ethan's beam shone clear, seeming pure, but his beats carved like dock blades. While we chase winds and gear, Vaughn's nabbed peace in plain, his snug wee den, his tight coin watch, his how to tag it, backwoods take on days. Chuckles stirred the gap, civil prime, then bold as souls caught this aimed fun. In truth, Ethan warmed to it. When Vaughn kind offered stake in our right, he hauled his slate with the beam of one yielding his final 25, which, frank, it like was. The guffaws swelled now. I sat iced, mug afire with shame, as Ethan sketched me quaint jest fig. The broke kin all endure, none heed deep. So, lift bows to Vaughn Cartwright. Ethan rapped, hoisting his fizz high. Mark that joy needs no vault, that care-tops gear win, and that oft the prime boon is just clocking your slot in the globe. The claps thundered. Souls hoisted bows my way, mugs lit with condensing mirth. I was the right jest, the quaint broke kin whose scrap made all else feel open and wise. But then a flip, o'er the gap. Harold Kensington's mug blanched. He glared me with a cast I couldn't peg. Clock mixed with jolt, mouth agape faint. Fizz bow forgot in paw. Hold, he boomed loud, his chime slicing the fading guffaws. Hold a beat. The gap hushed anew, but now with muddle or fun. Harold rose slow. Gaze chained to my mug. Ain't you Vaughn Cartwright of Thunder Echo Hush crashed the greet hall like swell. Every tine froze mid-lift. Every yarn choked mid-breath. Harold Kensington stood iced at prime board, jabbing me with quake digit. Mug shifted by clock. Thunder echo. He boomed again. Louder. The crew night drive. Shattered illusions. Storm surge. That was you. Right. Other souls wheeled in seats, probing my mug with fresh heat. I caught hushed yarns spark. Thunder echo. That rock crew from the 90s. They snagged like 4 top charts. Ethan gripped his mic still, but his bold beam froze to what skimmed dread. He glanced tween his sire and me, as if we spoke tongues alien. Yes, I said soft, my chime somehow spanning the iced gap. I fronted thunder echo. The own struck the mass like quake. Seats scraped stone as souls bent near, sudden spying me not as broke kin, but as one whose beats scored their youth trails. Knew it. Harold near hollered, ditching his board to stride my way. Saw you lot at the arena in '98. Front seats. You inked my girl's tea. Other chimes joined now. the thrill building like gale. I owned all your platters. Didn't you lot pack the garden, what befell thunder echo? I rose slow, pins unsteady under. The gap whirled faint as decades of stowed recalls crashed home. The roar crowds, the full halls, the disc pacts and rag spreads and coin that gushed like falls. What to the crew, Harold gasped. Now square afore me. I quit. I said plain. When Emily came, I stepped from all. Beats, roads, cuts, whole. But why one piped from o'er the gap? You lot loomed vast. I eyed Emily at prime board. Tears tracing her paint. Prime grasping the heft of what I'd yielded. 'Cause dad life topped starshine. 'Cause I craved front row for each class play. Each bumped shin. Each tucked tail. 'Cause some tallies top win. And your wife sick. Harold hushed, his fan fire yielding to man grasp. I clocked that in spin rag years on. You poured all on her mend. Right, the gap held breath. Every buck I owned, the den, the wheels, the stakes, all fed holding Olivia as long as might. I'd pick same anew at dawn. Claps dawned slow, from Harold and fanning the gap like blaze. But this wasn't the condensing pats from Ethan's nod. This rang true hail, regard for a chap who'd picked care or tail, kin or shine. Ladies and gents, Harold boomed, chime thick with stir. We're midst real great, not the vein from coin or rank, but from yield and care. The claps swelled, souls rising from seats. One hooted, thunder echo, others sparked the chant. I stood in dated garb, swamped by the swift luck flip, prime nabbing the nod I'd ne'er chased, but craved deep somehow, o'er the gap. Emily's gaze locked mine through her tears, and in 'em I spied grasp, rue, and what beamed awe. My girl spied me final, not as the scant chap she'd shunned, but as the dad who'd cared enough to yield all. Through the rise hail, I watched Emily lift from prime, her right robe drifting back like foam as she neared. Dad, she breathed on reach, chime cracking on the lone beat. I spread arms and she tumbled in, heaving 'gainst my arm, like taut post bad dreams, her posh scent twined with tear brine, her tailor robe creasing my aged garb, but none tallied now. Pardon me, she gulped 'tween heaves. I ne'er clocked what you yielded for me. I ne'er grasped. Love, naught to pardon, I soothed, stroking her curls like Olivia did. I scored prime boon watching you bloom. Each beat I skipped penning. Each stage I skipped. It tallied for you. Round us. The claps rolled, but rang far now. Backdrone to this tick I'd chased 3 years for. My girl in arms anew. True spying me. True grasping what our kin meant. Ethan bloomed by us. Mike clutched still, mug pale with shame. Mr. Cartwright, he said, chime scarce o'er the rolling hail. Sir, I blanked full. I'm gut-deep shamed o'er all I've spilled, all I've pegged wrong. I eyed him o'er Emily's crown, this youth who dimmed me moons, and spied true dread in his gaze. Not caught flush, but keen clock of hurt wrought. You blanked, I said plain. That frees none. He raised the mic with quake pause. Ladies and gents, heed once more the mass stilled, sensing the stir shift. I owe one deep atone. Ethan rolled, chime firming now. Von Cartwright ain't lone a rock lore who picked kin or shine. He's the vein I hope to shape, one grasping care and yield top coin or rank. Sir, I'm graced to call you kin. He stepped near, stretched paw. I gripped firm, spying fresh in his gaze. Not the coin scan of my worth, but true regard for picks he primed dawned to grasp. To Vaughan Cartwright, Harold hooted o'er the gap, hoisting Fizz high, a true champ. To Vaughan, the mass boomed, and swift I ringed by souls craving paw shakes, spilling on shows they hit, platters they held, how my beats scored their youth. But prime chime was Emily's breath, 'gainst my arm as we clasped in the gale heart. "I'm swelled to be your girl," she said. Gutted it lagged me this to recall what that true means. The fate whirled round us, guffaws and chords and ping of posh glass. But prime in years, I felt slotted true, not from claps or clocks, but 'cause my girl's arms bound me, and she grasped final the care depth shaping each pick I'd made. When we parted final, Harold pressed I join kin at prime board, shifting seats to carve spot by Emily. As I eased to my fresh hale perch, I eyed o'er the gap to the boon board, where my plain sheath sat midst plush packs. 25,000, still my all, still scant by the coin round, but prime it felt full. As the night deepened, the stars above Seaside Manor twinkled like old friends, witnessing our family's quiet healing. Emily's laughter mingled with the waves, a sound I hadn't heard in years, pure and free. In that moment, I realized true wealth isn't in vaults or venues, but in the unbreakable bonds we rebuild, one heartfelt embrace at a time. What touched you most in Vaughan's journey? Share your impressions in the comments below, and let's exchange thoughts. Have a question about sacrifice, family, or second chances? Drop it here so we can discuss together. Your interactions fuel this channel, so like, subscribe, and join the conversation. For the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for listening.